This is an excerpt from A Practical Guide to Holistic Health by Swami Rama, from the chapter of self-training. The first is to become self-reliant. If you are not happy, you should not expect others to give you happiness. Happiness can never be given by anyone. This is the only concept that can help you be happy in the world. And if you don't grasp it, if you don't really learn it, then you will never be happy. If anyone claims they can give someone else happiness, it is not true. Nobody can give happiness to anyone. They can, at best, only create patches of happiness for them. It is just as if something should happen to your house. A neighbor could come and help you patch it. But if you were to depend too much on others after some time, you would be thanking everybody. And those thanks would become a curse. You would realize that your whole house was nothing but patches and that it was no longer a sound structure. One day it would collapse. So you should do the rebuilding yourself and not depend on others. Otherwise, you will let yourself become a house of patches. You should be self-reliant and learn how to make yourself happy. Many people expect others to make them happy, but they are never happy no matter how much others try to please them. Life is not limited to only the span that is seen. It is a long procession from the unknown to the unknown. Happiness is an attitude of mind coming out of an internal state of tranquility that allows you to go through the procession without disturbance. If you're expecting pleasure, you are also bound to have pain. Life is like a coin, of which one side is pain and the other is pleasure. You should realize these two inseparable opposites and accept life as it is. If you learn to be self-reliant, then you will be happy. Swami Rama.
Nice. Okay. What to do? Just teasing. All right. This is your journal question to start the session. When it is all said and done, have you done more than you said, or said more than you have done, where your spiritual practice is concerned? Are you doing enough? Why or why not? Hey Google, give me a timer for 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. Starting now.
Do I need to repeat? Okay. When it is all said and done, have you done more than you said, or said more than you have done, where your spiritual practice is concerned? Are you doing enough? Why or why not? Hey Google, stop timer. Okay. So part of this, what Lisa was reading about, is that this whole happiness. This is why we're studying the Ramayana, because the Ramayana teaches us everything that we need to do to be happy. Because that happiness that comes from within, no one can take it from you. The happiness that comes from without, so outside of you, anyone can take it from you. Because if I perceive that Mason gives me happiness and then Mason leaves and I never see him again, I'm going to be miserable. So we have to have the right attitude, the right understanding with whatever is happening, because pleasure and pain, the same side. What gives you pleasure is also going to give you pain when it leaves. Anyway, so been thinking, just because we've started this whole karma and reincarnation study, what the Christians call Satan, the yogis call samskaras. In that sense that we have the things that we do that we don't want to do are all based on our samskaras. We know we should do something, but we don't do it. It's based on our samskaras. So, you hear people say, oh, Satan got a hold of him. Satan's in her, the devil's in her, or whatever. No, it's the samskaras. That's all it is. It's our samskaras. And if we want to know that Satan within us, if we want to know the devil that resides within us, know yourself, know your samskaras. Know what makes you tick so that you can do something to change them. Otherwise, these Satans are going to be traveling with us lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and that's what happens. That's why we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. We keep reacting the same way. We keep our emotional dramas, our control dramas are the same because we don't know ourselves. This is part of the whole thing with the Ramayana. We want to know ourselves so that we can look at Satan, we can look at the demons, we can address them, we can change them. This is do your pranayama practice, do your japa practice, do your chanting practice, read the spiritual books that Swamiji has written. There are ways that we can do these things, but we have to do it. Because there will come a time when that's it. Thanks for shopping. And we don't want to wake up and, whoa, if we know that this is going to be my last day on earth, and then suddenly I'm thinking, oh shit, I should have been repeating my mantra. I should have been chanting more. I should have been doing this. I should have been focusing on my breath more. At that point, it's too late. We're going to come back and do the same thing over again. So we want to do the practice so that we can address those Satans that reside within us, those demons, those devils, those Rakshasas, whatever you want to call it. We need to address it. So now we're on to the part where Rama and Lakshman they've killed the demons, and Vishwamitra, who is Rama's teacher, is taking them to, he's announced that King Janaka is going to, they're having a celebration, and Sita is going to be picking her husband. And so they begin their route there, and as they're going there, he explains certain things. And Vishwamitra teaches Rama and Lakshman about celestial weaponry. And this is the yoga, the scriptures talk about how a mantra can stop a missile, can completely annihilate a torpedo that's coming just with a mantra. Now, if we think about that inside of ourselves, the mantra, so say that you are in a place that is feeling hard. It's hard to be there. You're feeling your Satan's being drawn out and you're wanting to do certain things, right? If we are repeating our mantras, we are basically making the torpedoes and the missiles, we're disarming them. But if we go into a place and we don't have our practice to support us, then those missiles, those torpedoes come blasting in, and then suddenly we appear to be a basically good person, right? And then we get drawn into that mentality. We get drawn into that, and we start acting a certain way because the samskaras are there. And then suddenly you're in a situation that pulls them out. And then suddenly you've got your Satan right there and you're ready to go and blast someone, or you're ready to go and target someone, or whatever. Your mind has changed. This is, your environment is always stronger than you are until you get to a certain point. And you must be mindful of where you put yourself, because it's very easy. How many times are you in a place that you're feeling uncomfortable? Are you really repeating your mantra? I mean, if you're being honest, right? It's not constantly replaying. Every once in a while, suddenly I realize, oh, my mantra was here playing, and I didn't know it. Then I bring my awareness to it, but it's not anywhere near the time that I need to have it happening. So it's better just to put yourself in situations. This is why satsanga, this is why reading the books that Swamiji wrote, doing these things helps us. It helps us build this force field around us. So they're on their way. So the celestial weaponry, that if you want to think about it internally, because we're looking at this all internally within ourselves, the celestial weaponry is our practice. That we have power over. And the stronger your practice is, the more power you have over what is happening around you. So that we aren't stuck getting angry because we're in a situation where 5 other people are angry, and now we come in there. And normally I'm a peace-loving person, but now I'm in here and now I'm ready to fight because I'm in the mix with it. Or we come in there and everybody's sad, and now I'm really sad because suddenly I'm in the mix with that. You are a product of the company you keep. So, and we want to have that celestial weaponry. We want to have our practice so that we can dismantle whatever is coming towards us, or at least have the awareness that it's coming. Okay, you know what? I don't have the strength. I'm going to fall into this, so I need to excuse myself. I need to leave. So at least having that awareness to remove yourself from those situations. So they're on their way, and Vishwamitra is explaining to Ram and Lakshmana about, I'm going to have to shift this. This is going to pull it. He's explaining to Ram and Lakshman about King Janaka. So they're on their way to Janakpuri, which is the kingdom of King Janaka. And he explains that Janaka is this great sage, but he's also this incredible karma yogi. And he gives them, he explains to them how Sita came to be. So Janakpuri, the kingdom, was in a drought. And they were really struggling. And so he decided that he would go out and he would plow the earth. Now imagine you've got this land that is dry from decades of drought. So he's going out there to plow the land. Imagine how hard that would be. I mean, I was digging in some dirt the other day and just coming to some rocks, some little rocks, and I found it hard. I thought, shoot, I wish Parviz was here. Because it's hard. It's harder to dig into rocks. It's harder to dig into that stuff than it is to dig into some really good soil. So he's out there and he's sweating and he's getting blisters on his hand and he's refusing. They're saying, just stop, just stop. And he said, no, he was not going to stop until the rains came. So he's making his rounds in the land and he's becoming more and more haggard. And then he sees something moving in this furrow and he thought, oh no, have I gone over some animals or something? So he goes back to look and he pulls out of this furrow, he pulls a little baby girl. And he looks and he immediately says, oh, my daughter, because this is a gift that he has received from Ma Bhumi, from Devi Bhumi, from the land goddess. So, and as soon as he holds Sita in his hands, in his arms, it starts to rain. So he's plowing, and if you think about the implications, so he's plowing, he's a karma yogi. This is us, and Sita, right? Sita is from the earth. We have to plow ourselves. We have to do, how do we do that? By karma yoga, especially during the Kali Yuga, by selfless service. We want to not be identified with our actions. We want to do what is right. And when we do that and we're plowing inside of ourselves and we're digging, that's when our purified intellect and intuition come to surface. But how can intellect and intuition, purified intellect and intuition come to surface if we're doing everything from an ego standpoint? We have to do it from a completely selfless standpoint. Then we will have Sita emerge within us. So then he's explaining that they're going to a hermitage, and he's explaining just a bit about it, and they arrive there, and he realizes that, or Ram and Lakshman see that this place is just so desolate. It's so just overgrown and just in bad shape. And Vishwamitra explains to him that there was, at one point, it was Sage Gautama's hermitage. And he was there with his wife, Ahalya. And Ahalya has an interesting story. She is the daughter of Brahma, and she was beyond beautiful. Just incredibly beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And Brahma gave Ahalya to not Vishwamitra, to Sage Gautama as his wife. And Indra became very jealous of this. He became very jealous because he wanted her as his wife. And he was also, and Sage Gautama was so dedicated to his practice and to his penance and to his austerities. And he was very jealous of that as well too. He was afraid that Gautama was going to overtake him in heaven. So he became very jealous of his spiritual practices. So he devised a plan that he was going to, hopefully, if his plan worked, he was going to cause Gautama to curse Ahalya, and he was going to have sex with Ahalya, and he would stay as the ruler, as the god of heaven. So he devises this plan. He knows every morning, Gautama gets up in the morning and he goes to the river and he does his ablutions and he does his practice, and Ahalya tidies up and has everything ready for when he comes back. And so what he does is he disguises himself as a rooster and he crows earlier in the morning. So Sage Gautama gets up, stretches, kind of puzzled, thinking it seems earlier, but okay, the rooster's crowing, I'm getting up. So he gets up and he's heading out to do his ablutions. And then Indra disguises himself as Sage Gautama. And he comes back to the hermitage. And Ahalya is a little quizzical, like, you're finished so fast. Then they end up doing sex. He's getting ready to leave. Sage Gautama sees him. And he knows immediately what has happened. So Indra wanted a curse, but he did not want a curse on him. So he begins to immediately plead because he knows what Sage Gautama is so powerful, and he knows that whatever he says is going to happen. So he begins to plead for no curse, right? And Sage Gautama immediately says that he is going to be impotent, and immediately his testicles drop off of him. So he'll later on, he'll go get a ram and he'll sew some testes back on. No need to worry. But his testicles drop, and now he looks at Ahalya and he says, and you will become a stone. You will sit here and you will do your practices and you will practice austerities and you will become a stone until Rama comes and releases you. So what this is saying is that, so Indra represents our 10 indriyas, our 10 senses, our entrance doors and our exit doors. And we've been talking about them a lot, and as an afterthought, I wrote them up there because if anyone wasn't remembering them. So the entrance doors are just our senses. The sight, smell, we all know those, right? Our 5 senses we learn in elementary school. The exit doors, so our entrance doors are going to directly impact our exit doors. So they're going to impact the way we speak, the way we walk, the locomotion, the way we grasp. It's going to impact all of those. It's going to impact our elimination, our peeing and pooping. It's going to impact our procreation, our sex drive. So whatever you are taking in is going to impact your exit doors, which once again, we need to be very mindful of everything that we're taking in. So with this curse, what he's saying is that you have to be, we need to make the world, because the indriyas are our senses. Because Ahali had this desire to have sex. And because sadhana, if we think of sadhana, we think of Gautama, sadhana left for just a second, right? This is inside of us. So our practice, if we let our practice slip for even a second, it can be very dangerous. So just for a second, she let her practice slip, and then that desire for sex came back. So whatever these latent desires that we have, if you're not mindful of your practice, those Satans, those devils are going to rear their ugly heads. This is why we have to annihilate them with our celestial weaponry. This is why we have to annihilate them with our practice. Otherwise, they just keep coming up. And then we keep doing the same thing, and we wonder why we're living in the life that we're living. Because you lived this life before. You're doing the same things. I'm doing the same things. We need to change. So we need to have that. We need the world to be impotent. We need to not have that drive to go back to the world. Unfortunately, our spiritual practice is impotent. We don't have that connection. We're much more dedicated to the world than we are to our spiritual practice. And being a rock, so we want to become a rock to the world. But we are a rock to our spiritual practice. The spiritual practice has no real sway over us. We want that to be the driving force behind everything that we do. Karma, every thought you think. So karma, action. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every action you perform. You want to have that be skillfulness in action. That means we need to have our spiritual practice, our sadhana, on the forefront, because one little, and then suddenly we're like, oh, so she spent 1,000 years as this rock doing her austerities. Thank God we're in the Kali Yuga and we don't have to do all these things for so long. I mean, it really is a gift. If you think about it, the Kali Yuga is the hardest and the easiest time to know God. The hardest because the world is so big. And what I mean by so big, I'm talking about social media. I'm talking about the world itself is small, but our lack is bigger. And we're constantly getting it bigger and bigger, this lack inside of us. And we're looking to the world to fill that up. But being also in the Kali Yuga is the easiest time to find God. That's so kind of God. If we can just make the world stone to us, so that our entrance doors are no longer interested in that, then it becomes, we make huge strides in this lifetime. I think it's kind of exciting, actually. I think it's really exciting that this is, okay, we know what we have to do. We just have to do it. The plan's been given to us. We didn't have to be these yogis and yoginis of yore who had to sit and do these austerities for thousands and thousands of years and practice and do all of these things and go inside and discover and know all these things about the body. Understand the prana. They have given it to us. We just have to do it. That's a pretty sweet deal. But we need to do the practice so that we can have that discernment to do what we need to do. So that we're not being pulled around and doing, I know I shouldn't do this, but here I am doing it. I know I should do this, but nope, I'm not going to do it. Because those samskaras are so strong. So we want to make the world to be a stone to us. And as always, the Yoga Sutra, or the Ramayana gives us this, and this comes from the Yoga Sutra, which is friendship for those that are happy. These are the ways, so because Indra wasn't happy that Sage Gautama received Ahalya as a gift as his wife. He wasn't happy. He wasn't cheerful about that. He wanted her. Do you have a question? Oh. How many times does someone get something that you want it and you're not happy for them? Or someone in your family or your friend group or whatever it is, didn't get something and someone else that got it and you wanted that other person to get it. And suddenly you're bitter. You have animosity towards the person that got it. Or someone that you love, right? That your best friend suddenly gets something and you didn't get it. Now you're pissed. And this is a person that you love. Now you're pissed off that she got it or he got it. So we want to have cheerfulness for those that receive whatever it is. We want to cultivate that. We want to practice cheerfulness. And if you can't be cheerful, you need to ask yourself why. We are in this habit of contrasting and comparing ourselves constantly. And all that is doing is feeding our lack. Why does someone have to be better and why does someone have to be less than you? Why can't we just be where we're supposed to be and I work on myself and you work on yourself? It's pretty straightforward, but we make it so complicated. The next one is compassion for those that are suffering. And this one is harder because we think of compassion, we want to, this is where, so you can have, it's easy to know if like someone has been mean to someone has slapped someone, or someone has stolen something from someone, or whatever it is, and you can see that they're suffering. But the tricky part for us, and especially us as spiritual aspirants, is that how many times, and this is where it gets really ugly and really dangerous, and we have to be really mindful and look at ourselves. How many times do we take advantage of a person? Do we manipulate a person? Do we maneuver ourselves so that we're sitting on top, so that we have hand? That we are creating suffering. So how can we have compassion when we're creating suffering? This is where the ego gets involved, right? We've all had relationships where we've had hand, and we've all enjoyed those relationships. And if you say you haven't, you're lying, because we've all had those relationships where we were the one in control, where this person doted on us, or this, whatever it is, right? And because what we have done is we have fed our lack at the expense of another person. So we haven't been compassionate, but what we've actually done is created suffering. And it's a very, very, very dangerous game to play. So this is where we have to analyze all of our actions, all of our behaviors all the time. I'm not just talking about in a relationship, that you're in with a partner. I'm talking about any relationship that you've ever been in. We manipulate parents, we manipulate kids, we manipulate whatever it is. Anytime I want someone to think a certain way about me, so I'm going to manipulate the situation, or we take advantage of another person's lack. Oh, I see that you are insecure about whatever. So I'm going to present that I see you're insecure about your intelligence or whatever. I'm going to present that I'm so smart, so that you are like, wow, she's so smart. This is great. She's so smart and she's giving me attention and she's helping me or whatever. What we're doing is we're playing on their weakness to feed our ego. Does this make sense how dangerous this is? It's scary. And we do it blindly, constantly, all the time. So we need to sit back and we need to start looking at every word, every action, and every thought. Everything those are our karmas that we're constantly getting in bed with that's going to cause the next lifetime. Then you have cheerfulness towards the virtuous. That's the same thing. Indra, right? He was very jealous of what Gautama had accomplished. You would think that just the worldly stuff, but it's amazing to me how much jealousy and how much anger and stuff that I would see living at ashrams. Because someone perceived that this person was getting more attention from the teacher, or someone perceived that this person was more advanced. Did you all completely forget about karma and reincarnation? Okay, so this person certainly could be more advanced, but we don't know what they did in their past lives. So this is, if you believe in karma and reincarnation, there's no reason to be jealous of anything. I don't know. I have no clue what Mason did in his past life. So why should I be jealous of what Mason has? Or why should I be glad because what he doesn't have in this lifetime? If you really believe it, then these are very easy to follow. If you don't believe it, then you need to examine that. And you'll find that these become harder and harder. Most of you know the experience. I'm not going to go into it, but my first night at Yogaville, the next morning, I had this really powerful experience with Swami Satchidananda. And I went and I talked to one of the Swamis and I explained what had happened. And he said, basically, don't share this with a lot of people, because there are people that have been here for years who have wanted something like this and have never gotten it. And basically, if you share this, however long you're going to be here could be miserable for you. It was like, wow. I mean, to me, it was this new thing. So it was like, just, this is what happens, right? So you share it with somebody because you're like, whoa, this just happened. Can we talk about this? But as I lived in more ashrams, that's a thing that became very apparent, that people are, and ask yourselves, how many times have you said to someone who was legitimate, was really struggling or really trying and really making improvements rather, and then you wanted to cut them down because you wanted yourself to feel better about what you weren't doing in your spiritual practice? Oh, they're fake, they're pretending, they're this, they're that, whatever. This is where we need to be constantly, and we say it so much, vigilant. Just be vigilant. And the last one, indifference towards the non-virtuous. And this does not mean ignoring. It does not mean someone who is not, once again, this goes back to that we contrast and we compare ourselves. We see someone happy, right? We contrast it, we compare. We see someone that is non-virtuous according to our virtues. And then we judge them based on our virtues. Oh, you do this. Well, I'm better than you because I don't do that. We look down at Koreans because they eat dogs. But it's okay to eat cows? Is it not an animal? But we're like, oh my God, they eat dogs. They have factory dog farms there. Oh, they're so uncivilized. Have you ever gone by a factory farm where cows are, or pigs, or chickens? Have you ever watched a video of what they go through in this lifetime? But yet we are ready to cast a stone at the Koreans for doing the same thing that we're doing. But because we love dogs, you guys are heathens. So indifference towards the non-virtuous, first, examine your virtues. And indifference, let's get this very clear, does not mean ignoring. It means not judging. Who are you to have the right to judge anyone? Who am I? This is where, once again, karma and reincarnation come in. You will have raped someone, you will have been raped. You will have been in prison, you will have not been in prison. You will have been a thief, you will have had someone steal things from you. So where is this ability to get on a high horse? Why do you think that you should have the okay to get on a high horse for something because you're not doing it in this lifetime? Okay. Who knows what some scars lie beneath you, that what you might be doing next lifetime. The only thing that you will be able to get back next lifetime are your practices. That's it. So you may have this incredible house, absolutely amazing house in this lifetime. Next lifetime, you may be homeless, walking by, looking at that house, pining, wondering what it looks like inside. But it was your house last lifetime, but you can't get there. You may have talents in this lifetime. You may be extremely artistic. You may be able to draw. You may be able to play music. You may be able to dance. Maybe in this lifetime, you have a family that can't afford to give you lessons. So you have this longing to play, but you can't do it in the next lifetime because you don't have the means to do it. Nothing is yours. And if you want to do anything for yourself, do your practice. That's where everything, that's the bottom line for everything. The more you do your practice, the better your life will be next time. Not saying that everything is going to be because spiritual. First of all, let's make one thing very clear. Just because you're on a spiritual path does not mean your life is roses. Does not mean that you're not going to be fired upon. But when you are fired upon, you will handle it more gracefully because you will look at everything as a gift from God. This is my karma. Thank you for allowing me to purge it. So everything falls back to just doing your spiritual practice, doing your practice, doing your sadhana. Don't turn your back on your sadhana for even a second. Because then suddenly you're going to be in bed with your senses. And wherever your senses drag you, that's where you're going to go. Strengthen yourself, strengthen your resolve, strengthen your Sankalpa Shakti. Ask yourself, why is it that I don't want to do this and I do this? Examine that so that we can move forward because we have been given a gift of being born as a human and in the Kali Yuga. So let's take advantage of it. Any questions?